Episode 11 of Space Wars. Let's get into it. We saw, Mercury get some stuff happen. Today we're going to be starting on Earth. Well, many things will be happening. The big thing that happened is Russia joins China. And China was sending a lot of support to Russia to build their space program. And what Russia's actually decided to do, they don't want to have their own space program. They want to join China's giant empire. So that's what they do. And then quickly after that, they would be basically becoming the Mongols and going ahead and invading all of these countries at once. Yeah. As they quickly go ahead and go into Uzbekistan, and eventually into Turkmenistan. They would be quickly defeating Turkmenistan, and also they would be sending their troops into the Caucasians, as they will quickly defeat them. But they do have some geographical challenges in the Caucasus areas, but don't really think that matters. They've gone through Tibet before, and, well, they have the strongest military in the world, better than anybody else's, so they are able to breeze through these areas. But they do have some trouble invading into the giant Irani mountains. Yeah, but they will be able to go and capture around the Caspian Sea. Yeah. And then more countries are going to decide to join in on this war in order to, or just send a lot of funding in order to try to stop China from occupying all of Iran. Because that would completely surround India and be very bad. But India, at the same time, is going to go ahead and invade Afghanistan, and so China doesn't get it. Yeah. And also Nepal and Bhutan. With all the funding, the Iranians will actually be able to make a lesser front line against the Chinese, but well, this is a giant war, and eventually Iran is going to surrender in order to not lose all their land, and we can look at a peace treaty. This is the peace treaty of this war, and after this, a pretty big event is happening. A new union is formed, also known as the Islamic Union. This union is mainly Middle Eastern, and well, yeah. And basically, a bunch of these countries here are going to unite in order to form one giant Islamic front against, well, the giant Chinese Empire, which is basically Mongolia at this point. Yeah. And, invasion of Japan? Wait, this is how this supposed to be good. They just invade Japan and quickly take it. Yeah. And China's giant, and countries are worried, specifically in Eastern Europe, because some areas are very much afraid that the Chinese might just want to go in the Eastern Europe and just swarm their areas. And also some plans just got leaked that they were planning to do that. So, alright. Even with Kaliningrad, China is going to decide, you know what? We're invading all of Eastern Europe. And this is something, and well, nobody likes this. You're just kind of invading half of Europe. You already just invaded a bunch of countries, and you're basically becoming the Mongol Empire. So they will quickly send the Chinese will quickly send their troops over into the Baltic countries and into Ukraine, as Kiev is already captured and Crimea is taken. And, well, the Ukrainians, or just everybody, is very weak against the Chinese, as they will just basically be swarming these regions, forcing more and more of them to surrender. And, well, they can't really respond, other countries. But the Germans will invade Poland, and we can look at a peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty! Not very good peace treaty. And, well, that happens. Yeah, for some reason, the Chinese just randomly out of nowhere fully annex Finland. And, well, more countries are going to decide to join the Square Alliance, as more and more countries just believe that this thing is going to not be well. As the Middle Eastern country, the Italians, the Spanish, the Portuguese, all of them joined this alliance. And that's something. Just look at China. Literally the biggest empire in history. Yeah. Where do we go to now? Which planet? Mars. We haven't been here in a while. Because the Chinese will be landing here. They won't just be landing anywhere. They will be landing in this country. And the Chinese just take it, and this country doesn't exist anymore. And the Chinese, with their extremely advanced technologies, are going to advance over into these regions like ever before. As all these countries around are going to swarm in and attempt to colonize the entire planet of Mars before the Chinese can get there. But it's already too late, as the Chinese have basically colonized a lot already. They just basically instantly got that much of the planet. Wait, what they see that Germany is not in the Square Alliance. So, according to laws that of the alliance, they just invade the German colony in Mars, and they will very quickly just capture the entire colony. And the Chinese now officially control all this area. And Germany, seeing this, has basically just lost everything. All they have is their tiny moon colony. Oh wait, they barely even have that. So the Germans, being reasonable human countries, are going to join the Square Alliance, and so's France and the British. And also the Swedish and the Norwegians. Yeah, as every country that wants to join the Square Alliance joins the Square Alliance. Yeah. Time to go back here. As China is threatening the Americans now, they are asking them to just give them their colony. And obviously this is America, so they won't accept. But India is still going crazy over in these areas, as they fully colonize these mountains before China can slip into the cracks. As they even go ahead and claim areas that are Chinese. That the Chinese don't really care. Well, no, yeah. And this is what a Martian planet thing looks like. As China will be expanding back into these areas. Yeah. Time to go back to Earth, as more and more countries will be joining the Square Alliance. Yeah. As you, Australia, too big of a square. You, Indonesia, good of a square. And also, a bunch of these Arab African countries will be joining this alliance, and even a couple of the Christian ones like South Sudan. Yeah. And basically a bunch of Africa joins the Square Alliance. And with this Middle Eastern thing persuading them, and also a couple of these Brazilian countries will decide to join the alliance as well. Yeah, wait, who controls this? Is this American? Whose is this? I don't know. I just say it's an independent country. It's even Venezuela joins the Square Alliance. And you know there's something weird going on when Venezuela joins the same alliance as America. That's when you know something weird is happening. In China, that rocket, those Jupiter rockets from last episode, we can notice that, let's just say Jupiter's are like here. They were roughly here. America's was in about yeah. So as the rockets are traveling, let's just say it's here. The rocket is traveling and the Chinese is catching up a lot quicker. And eventually, we can see that they're tied. But who will make it to Jupiter first? Jupiter, the Chinese and the Americans are gonna have the biggest space forces ever have on this mission to Jupiter. Because if they can get to Jupiter and colonize the entire planet before the other can, Jupiter's the biggest planet in the solar system, so that's a pretty big deal with all its resources that they can now extract because this is the future. And, well, we can see that America is almost there. but also China is almost there. Basically the Mongolian Empire at this point. Now the Chinese Empire. And that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Space Wars. See you next episode and bye!